Hello, and welcome to my second horror hour. Today I'm going to look at the Babadook, Hush, and Let the Right One In. Horror has always been a big thing, and these days people like the psychological kind of side. Gore is still around, and that is, I don't think gore is ever going to leave, but of course different eras, different things. And horror is growing and becoming something totally new. Obviously with the new It, there's a lot to think about, but I don't want to do too many episodes on that because spoilers. So, the Babadook came out a couple of years ago and it was fantastic. So many people like it and I am a big fan of it. I've got it on DVD. That says enough. I really like it. It's something different. The Babadook is an Australian horror film, and the thing I like about it is that it catches on some niche taboos. You've got the dog, the killing of the dog. You've got the time when mum's in bed having a bit of fun on her own. You don't see that in many horror films, or even any films really, because it's quite a taboo thing. It's not really seen as being normal, which it is, but it's a generalised taboo. You get more sex scenes and you get like Lone Ranger scenes. But the dog, I think that annoys most people because in general in life, people care more about animals than they care about other people. It's just a general fact. And the fact that the dog dies really seems to annoy everybody. Nobody likes that. And to be fair, I'm not going to lie, in a lot of films, if an animal is threatened, I basically tell the killer I'm going to eat them. You know, I'm like, oh, I don't care about the protagonist, do whatever you want to the protagonist, but you hurt that cat and me and you are going to have a problem. That's normally how I am, and I think the Babadook really works with that. I also think the villain, the actual Babadook, is quite interesting because it is like in Sinister when you've got Bagul, and it's like this. In the Babadook is a children's book character that is twisted and torn and made into this monster, and of course then in Sinister Bagul is a demon who just collects children. Everyone has to have their own thing and he just collects children. Why not? But it's the way that this kid goes psychopathic, and of course in horror these days, kids and women are two things that are just terrifying, and there is always one. You don't get a horror film with like a group of dudes being chased by something. It's like, you just don't get that. Women and children in horror. You can have a horror film without a guy. You don't need a guy, necessarily, as long as you've got women and children. For example, a good film again with that would be The Grudge or The Ring. Men are sort of like side characters as long as you've got a creepy kid and a woman who plays a victim or has to solve the crime or has to solve whatever. Yeah, you normally have a creepy kid or creepy woman and then a woman or a kid who has to fix it. So the Babadook goes along those lines again, but the fact that the kid almost is being tormented by this thing and then it almost has to fight the demon or the Babadook to save his mum, that is, again, that's a different thing, because normally it's the other way around. But it's a good film. It's one of my favourite horrors. It's good. Then Hush. I hadn't seen Hush until last night. The Babadook and Hush are both on Netflix at the moment. They're in the September horror section on Netflix. I don't have Netflix. I use something else on my Xbox One. But I did like Hush. But it wasn't what I was hoping it would be. I think they didn't use all the conventions with a film like that to their full potential. With something like Hush, you could probably have used less sound or more sound to make it a little bit more twisted, but obviously because sound is an issue for this character. it goes off the more slasher kind of thing, and I think it could have used a little bit more of conventional slasher kind of stuff in it. It could have used a bit more of the gore, the blood and guts factor. To me, it seemed more like a thriller, because obviously she had to try and sort everything out and escape this guy and find a way of getting out of it. Part of me wishes she died at the end, because not enough lead characters die in horror films. It's just lacking something. It was good though, I did enjoy it, but it didn't really grab me. It let me down a little bit on my expectations, but I would recommend seeing it just for the sake of seeing a film like that. Another film actually that's quite close to that is a film that I've just watched recently, just today actually, is The Eye, the 2008? Is it 2008? I've actually got it on my screen now. Yeah, I think it's the 2008 American remake. Now I've heard that the original film, in the end, everybody dies, apart from the protagonist, which is understandable. But of course, with Hollywood cinema, any American cinema most of the time, if there's a big lead actress or something like that, they're not going to kill her off. They're not going to kill off a large actor in a horror film like that, or make them seem like a bad person. So in this version, everybody lives. She saves everybody. I liked The Eye more than I liked Hush. There was more visual stimulus as far as horror imagery is concerned. There was quite a bit of oral signifiers as well. There was a lot of boom and smashing and screaming, sudden loud noises, boom noises that make you go, oh, what the hell's going on? I do think though that you're kind of looking at a Bella Swan kind of character, and I don't really mean that in a bad way, that she's a bad actress or anything. No, no one is, but people are, but she's good, this girl. The problem was that the character seemed to have been written as a misery git. She just had new eyes, she can see for the first time. She doesn't really seem that bothered about it, really. I do think that the film dragged on a little bit around the middle. It was all focusing on her trying to convince this guy and all this and everything, and all these images she's seeing, and it's the same thing over and over again. There was nothing really that you weren't expecting, apart from the guy in the elevator. I did not expect the guy in the elevator. The little kid I got a bit annoyed at, and I was just like, just leave, mate. But I feel like there could have been more time spent on her in the hospital with the little girl. I feel like that could have been really adapted on, and maybe even the hospital could have been even more significant. But yeah, I did like it more than Hush. There were more interesting points than in Hush. What was the other film I was going to say? Let the Right One In. Now, Let the Right One In, I'm talking the original Swedish film, I'm not talking the American remake. I don't like the American remake. The original Swedish is really, really good. Now, as far as horrors go, I wouldn't say it's necessarily terrifying. It's more that it's just completely covered in taboos. The fact that the little girl just kills one guy randomly because she's a bit hungry. Yeah, that's cool. But she gets seen. Nothing's really done about. Well, obviously they're a bit annoyed that their friend's dead. But she gets away with it. She gets away with a lot of stuff. Vampire. She's gonna get away with it. But also the taboo of their little romance. Now their little romance, I think, is so sweet, but it's also really creepy. The way the film's shot is almost quite noir. It's a bit grungy, a bit noir. The gore isn't tremendous, it's more just the concepts and the taboos. But I find the storyline really amazing. And one of the reasons I find it so amazing is because it touches so much on bullying, which so many films don't these days, and even if they have got kids in them, they don't seem to touch on that area so much anymore. But this film really does, and it really kind of says not like, oh, stop bullying and, you know, maybe this person will end up being nice or whatever. No, this film says stop bullying because she will eat you. You continue this and she's going to eat you. Good luck there. I like it. I like the fact that she is... he gives her friendship. He gives her something that she hasn't got, and something that makes her sad. You know, he gives her companionship, and she's no longer lonely. And she kind of gives him the same thing, but she also gives him protection and revenge, which isn't always a good thing. But in this case, oh my god, I love it. I love that she gives him this revenge. It's a good film. I would recommend it if you haven't seen it. And watch the original Swedish. You should be able to find a version with subtitles. Most of them do, especially if you've got Xbox One. The app on there that has subtitles on that one. But yeah, that's a good film. So there's a lot of good horrors out there. A lot of modern horrors now, though, I am finding are very cliche. They really are following the same sort of terms and conditions of all of them for the past decade. Something that I am interested in seeing, though, is whether or not it is going to change horror conventions for the next generation of horror. Because it includes so much gore and so much psychological horror as well. And that is something I haven't seen in a film where they... I mean, obviously there are films where they use a bit of each, but it uses both equally, and I find that so intriguing. So I wonder what that's going to mean for the next few horror films. We'll have to wait and see in the next year or the year after what is going to be released. And obviously we're going to have the second It film, which I'm definitely going to the midnight screening of when that happens. Okay, anyway, finally, I would like to just give a bit of a shout out to a Kickstarter campaign for a horror film, of which I know the producer and the director. I know all the crew. I was on the set for a day. This is a film that's releasing next year called Clown Face. It's a slasher horror. I'm not going to give away too much of the plot. I'm going to say it's nice and gory, and it's got a very intriguing storyline. I would say if you're a fan of things like Hellraiser, if you're a fan of good 80s slasher horror, things like Hellraiser or Friday 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, even if you're a fan of Saw and Hostel, things like that, Clown Face would be good to go and see once it comes out. If you would like to fund Clown Face, click on the link below. There is also a link in the description. Have a look at their Kickstarter campaign, have a look at all their promotions. You can also find a couple of details on the film on IMDb. It's very good. The people who are doing it are absolutely lovely, and there is a nice amount of gore. So help them get started. And I will see you soon. Bye bye.